Batgirl issue 8, Brian Q. Miller writing with guest writer, or guest artist, I should say, Talent Caldwell, Vel Gisher, and John Staniche. So this, I'll just say it, first of all, the art is a step down from the normal.
Significantly. I think, okay, first thing, this isn't all over the place in terms of art. The Talent Caldwell is the main artist for the vast majority of the book. Those other two are guest artists just for the end sequence. I think it's just the final 2 pages with the Red Robin stuff. I suspect they were on the Robin book. Yeah,
probably. So here's the thing. The very first page, I saw Stephanie's face and went, oh no.
Yeah, I did the exact same.
Now, I will say the colours still look pretty good. The colours, I don't know if the colours is the same, but it feels in tone with the previous issues. Unfortunately, the faces are not particularly great. So this issue does kind of have a bit of a lead off into other stuff that's not going to be fulfilled in this book. Interesting little tidbit here. I've never read this issue before because this issue wasn't in the original trades for this run.
Was it not?
No, they left this out. And because of that, I always assumed it was more of a direct crossover with Red Robin, so you had to read the Red Robin for it to make sense. And for the most part, you actually don't. It works on its own until the ending.
This is the setup that goes into Red Robin stuff afterwards.
Yeah. So the ending sort of sets something up that's never paid off in this, but otherwise it's actually quite easy to read, and there's a lot of good stuff in it. So I think the issue is good for her character stuff and for the scenarios we're given. It's just the art kind of sucks.
I'm going to tell you now, it drags it down a good, point or two.
Yeah, the faces are not good. The big puffy lips are really distracting on Steph.
Dialogue is really on point, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's Brian Q. Miller writing, so the dialogue's great. I love her making fun of him because she's training in the cave and he shows up as Red Robin, because this is, of course, in the timeline, this is where he's Red Robin. And she's like, why do you look like Dr. Midnight? Which is especially funny to me given that I just read a JSA issue.
She's not wrong.
Yeah,
and
it does.
It's funny. Do you know what, this feels like the Red Robin stuff happened recently, and this was him poking fun at that costume change. Eerily prescient, because it feels like what just happened with Tim Drake yet again, with the Drake costume. And I don't think I read it, but I think you did, but someone in another issue made a joke about the costume.
Yeah. I mean, the dialogue is and obviously the narration, like it has been, is wonderful. Like, there's a moment where Tim says, "I really need you to not be useless right now," and in her narration she says, "child," and then Tim's like, oh, "Okay, that sounded way harsher than it should have done," and she's like, "No, you don't get to dial that back. You don't get to like take that tone with me." Like the back and forth is so good, and I don't think I expected it to be this hostile between them. Where there's one point later in the issue where she's just in her narration going, "I hate him, I hate him, I hate him."
Yeah, this is the broody Tim era.
Yes.
Post Bruce's death, where he's not in a great place. Not Tim's finest moment.
Yeah, I also expect that this stuff that Red Robin's doing is building up to the resurrection of Ra's al Ghul, or is just after it.
I think just before, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Yes, it must be after it, because he mentions Raz is about, so I think it's after it. But it feels like it's related to that stuff, because he's talking about Raz. That's why he's here. That was
his crusades that he was on, right?
So Babs is on a date with the dude that the cop that Jim tried to set her up with, and they're kind of hitting it off where he's kind of like playing ball for ball here, where when she's kind of asking questions like, why would you come to Gotham when you can do this? And he's like, well, why would you teach in Gotham when you can do this? And he's like, oh, okay, they're actually kind of equals here in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and she kind of apologizes that, last time it wasn't his fault. It was, she wasn't in the right place, and he was right when he called her out on that, and she just reacted badly. No bad blood over it.
Yeah, do you know what the sad part is it's not amazing, but the men are much better looking in this than the women. I think this artist has a real hard time with...
I mean, it's very small increments better.
Do you know what I think it is? I think his tactic seems to be to give the women big puffy lips and give the men no lips, and I think the no lips works in his favor.
It's less distracting.
Yes.
I think you're right.
It works in his favor. But again, they're bickering as they look into why the satellites are down, why there's no communications, all the rest of it. But like I say, the banner between them is just really good. It's really strong throughout.
Yeah, that bit where she says like, yeah, pwned, and he's like, I don't think that's how you say it. And I like how the text does spell it with the P.
Yeah, I actually really like. There's one point where there's a fun little bit where she actually sends Babs a message in the Ricochet, the bike thing she's got, because she puts the autopilot on back to the cave so Babs can read it and know what she's doing. But so they have to infiltrate this party thing because the assassins are going after Leslie Tompkins, and Lucius Fox is there as well, and they have to like go in sort of as civilians. So Tim goes and steals them some outfits, and she's in this. Of course, it's a purple dress. We're in Power Rangers rules here.
To be fair, I think Tim did that intentionally. I think this is benefit of the doubt here. This isn't just them dressing their colors. This is Tim.
It wasn't
having a bit of fun.
I wasn't complaining about it.
I just meant in context. I think there's a good reason for it.
No, I mean they are with the boobs here. I might complain a bit about.
Yes.
Going a bit over the top with that there. It's especially noticeable when they make her so goddamn skinny.
Yeah, and she's so in the foreground, and Tim's just there in the background with everyone, and it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, it does indeed. But there's a great moment. I don't know what page it's on yet, but there's a moment where Steph basically says one of the things that should be in a narration box. It's in quotations, but it sounds like the sort of thing she would have in the narrations box. And Tim says, "You realize you're not using your inside voice right now." And I thought it was really witty and smart because it did sound like something that would be in her box rather than in the speech bubble.
It does, and it's things like that where you go, "Oh, this is why Tim and Steph had a relationship, right?" That banter when they're not angry at each other, those moments. Like, oh, okay, I see it.
And the other thing is one of the things that I've hated about Steph in Rebirth onwards, when they've brought her back to at least to a point more prominent place, is that she's been so tied to Tim. It's always been she's Tim's girlfriend or she's Tim's whatever, right? And it's really frustrating to me. And I think it's notable that in this issue here, first of all, it helps that she's got her own ongoing series where Tim only factors into it for one issue, really. But is that here, because they've already split up and because there's kind of this mutual thing where they have this history that is coming up, they have feelings for each other, it's affecting how they speak to each other and how they think in the moment, but at no point is it just, well, she's only defined by what she is to Tim. And like when and vice versa. Whereas in the new books, it's like them always talking about their future. It's them always talking about this or that. This was far more entertaining to read. It was far more exciting to read because it was playing off their history and how it affects the fact that they've both moved on into other things. Which I guess is the problem with comics a lot of the times, is that it refuses to let things move on. And the great thing about this era of the Bat family and this 2009 to 2011 is that things got to move on because they killed off Bruce. And they let all the characters kind of get to new places. And Steph's...
It ran wild a little bit.
Yeah, and Steph obviously only became Batgirl because of all that. And it's kind of great that, it's one of the big casualties of that going away is that we lost Steph as Batgirl.
I loved some of this period. The Heart of Hush stuff. Well, the Heart of Hush?
Heart of Hush was before R.I.P., but you're talking about when Hush went on in Streets of Gotham and all those other things.
Streets of Gotham. Yeah, I always mix up the two titles of which is which, but yeah, that whole section of just stuff going on. This is where you've got Riddler being a PI. You've got the Gotham City Sirens stuff going on. Gotham in this period flourished, like it hasn't in decades.
No, it was wonderful, and I mean, there's arguably individual books that have been fantastic since, but I don't think the line as a whole.
No, like we just pulled out three completely different points. Between the Hush stuff, the Batgirl stuff, the Siren stuff, and, even aside from the main book, that's three various facets of Gotham being fascinating. Whether you like all of them or not is debatable, but doing different stuff.
And then you had Snyder's Detective as well. I think.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Amusingly, the main Batman book was probably the weakest element of all the
it was. But then look at it now. Sure, there are arguably books that are individually as good, if not better quality than an individual story in this era. But Gotham as a whole is less interesting.
Right now there probably isn't, though. I mean, Tynion's Batman's probably the only thing that comes close, because Detective we dropped, Batgirl we dropped.
Yeah, okay. When I say right now, I mean in the Rebirth era. really.
Sure,
I mean,
okay.
there's an argument for like, okay, you're reading the first half of King's Run, and that's up there.
Sure,
right?
sure. Yes. So anyways, yeah, Supergirl destroyed the satellite or whatever Raz was using. They call Supergirl, and Batgirl says thanks. It's a whole thing, and yeah, so. And they have this moment on the roof where like they almost kiss when they're having like a tender moment, and like Steph stops and says, "No, we can't let our guard down. Like this isn't what we want. This isn't good for us." And it leaves the relationship in the past. And then it has this tease of this Prue from presumably from Red Robin's book, because I have no idea who she is.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting that I'm on DC Universe reading these, and it gives me the original solicit text underneath.
Ah.
And it actually, outright says Collision Part 2 continued from Red Robin 9 and ends in continued in Red Robin 10. And I don't think you need to read Red Robin 9 before.
Honestly,
I think you're fine.
The only thing in this issue that feels like, oh shit, I'm missing something, or it feels like this should connect to something else, is this last page. That is the only thing.
And I think it's very notable that those are the guest artists, even more so on, the extra artists are on those last, I think it's 2 pages, I think they're in. They show up, and it's very clearly this is the Red Robin bit.
Yeah, I'll have to say I don't really like the art in the last 2 pages either, if I'm honest.
I don't either.
Yeah,
I think it's slightly better, but I mean,
I don't know. Tim's head. See that panel where Steph's like stopped his hand, and it's like just split in 2. His head in that top part, I think, looks really weird angle wise.
That's fair. I think the faces are a lot more consistent. Even across this 2 pages, they're a lot better. They feel consistent panel to panel, which I think is more important than some of the other stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, this was fun for me because I never read this issue before.
Did not realize this wasn't in the original trades. Cause I've only ever read this like this.
Were the thick trades?
I read it in single issues originally. Yeah.
No, I had the 3 back in the physical days when I had physical books. I had the 3 trades, 3 volumes. Obviously now they're in 2 thicker trades, which is what I've got the digital versions of now. So it was nice to be able to read this and kind of like fill in that one little gap that was there in the run. But I mean, honestly, story-wise, really solid. All the character stuff between Tim and Steph is really good. So I think my worries of this being tied to their relationship was a little bit, unfounded once I actually read it.
Yeah, and I would say please don't judge Tim too harshly on this issue. He was going through a rough period. He's still the best Robin.
Yeah, sure. So
we'll get to some of that stuff. Don't you worry.
Yeah, sure. So no, but the art, of course, is definitely the weakest by far this book has had. It's not even a question. It does definitely feel like a fill-in artist. Probably to give Garbutt an issue off so he can come back strong.
I hope we're back to Garbutt next time. I'm actually going to quickly check because
I can tell you
it's Garbutt next time. We're good.
We're into the good covers next issue as well.
We've got like a handful of Sejic covers now. Is this Sejic? It looks like it.
I thought it was Art Germ.
Oh, it could be Art Germ. I'm looking at like a tiny thumbnail.
Okay. But I've not actually checked.
Good covers like the cover for issue 2 of this series. That's the orange background with her pulling up the boot.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, it's had good covers, but
phenomenal.
When I think of this series, though, the covers I think of are this next batch. It's Her in the Rain.
I think it's notable that those are the covers they use for the big trades.
It is, yeah. It's Her in the Rain. In fact, the one, not this next issue, but there's one where her mask is kind of ripped and she's sort of like just standing in the rain. Like that image is always stuck out to me. Is what I think of first when I think of this run. Makes the costume sing. So don't get me wrong, the boobs are a little too, separated as it were, but the material, like in the way the purple looks at the sides and all that, it looks gorgeous.
I'm just skimming ahead of the thumbnails here. I think it's interesting how they're very clearly split into these 3 segments. So you have these Noto covers at the start, and then you have these. You say it's Art Germ. I'll take your word for it.
I could be wrong.
It very well could be. We have a series of these covers, and if it's not, it's someone who's doing similar style for this section. And then we have what I can only assume is Dustin Wynn's covers. It looks very distinctive style, right?
Yeah.
And it looks like his covers through to the end of the book. Then. Yeah,
I remember that being a thing. But no, so good issue. from a writing and story perspective, dodgy from art. What are you giving it?
6.5, and that is docked a full point for art, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm actually, in a weird way, say that I would have rated it higher, but I'm going to deduct more for the art. So I'm going to give it a 6 for the art.
I can't really argue with it.
Well, not for the art. I'm going to give it a 6 because the art is why it's down. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably rating it a little bit higher just because it's my boy Tim.
Sure. Yes. The third best Robin.
How dare you?